however, that it can be nearly impossible to find a civil rights lawyer. Although I get calls from all around the country every day, I'm only one person, and I only take specific types of cases, and only in West Virginia. The good news is that if you need a lawyer because you've been injured, you can hire America's largest injury law firm, no matter what state you're in. Morgan & Morgan has over 1,000 attorneys in all 50 states. Because they're the biggest, they have the ability not to settle for low-ball offers. Last year in Florida, they got a victim. They got another victim in New York, $6.8 million. The insurance only offered the victim $2.75 million. Best part, your service is free unless you win. It only takes a few minutes to see if you have a case. You can submit a claim and communicate with your physician all from your smartphone. If you've been seriously injured, it will only take a couple of minutes to start a claim with Morgan & Morgan at forthepeople.com/thecivilrightslawyer, found in the description below. This video is making the rounds on Twitter, and now it has been reported on as well. This is the Riverside County Sheriff's Office, and apparently, according to the Desert Sun, they are now investigating the circumstances that led to the woman, the homeowner in this video, being arrested in the early hours of July 4th. This video shows a Riverside County deputy refusing to leave a woman's residence despite her repeated requests for him to do so. The video shows that the deputy approached the front door of this house, reportedly due to a loudness complaint from a next door neighbor. He rings the doorbell, he backs off, and he waits. According to the video, a minor then answers the door, sees that it's a cop, and then closes the door. But he doesn't take no for an answer. He tries to force his way into the house, and he refuses to let the door be closed. The video then shows the deputy arguing with a woman identified by the sheriff's office as Adele Shirey, 44 years old, who tells the deputy that if he does not have a warrant, then she will speak to him outside. The deputy who just stands there inside the door's threshold tells Shirey that he will not leave the house. He asserts his right to be inside by pointing off screen and saying, "They opened the door and ran from me. Now that I'm inside your house, I own your house right now," the deputy says in the video.
You're inside of my house.
Let me tell you why I'm right here.
Because you walked in.
Because they opened the door and ran from me.
And
That's
I'm
why.
telling you, I am there.
And I'm telling
this
you,
is my home.
that now that I'm inside your house, I own your house right now. Yes, I do.
If I tell her to bite you,
Tell
she
her
will
not
ask
to bite
me to walk down to
Tell her not to bite
and I will talk to you outside.
I'm going to talk to you.
What? What? Bring your supervisor to my home now. Now, bring them all. You have no right to be inside. No. You have no right to be inside because they opened the door, they're minors. I'm the adult, you're just in my home.
She says she's the adult.
She's not my mom. She's my daughter. And call your
After Shirey points at the deputy, he grabs her and pulls her onto the front porch before putting her in handcuffs.
and put me to You're in my house. You're in my house. You're in my house. I'm
The sheriff's department says that she was ultimately booked into the jail for resisting arrest and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. It appears from the video that Shirey did not touch the deputy throughout the confrontation and that the deputy is the one who initiated contact. The sheriff's office declined to answer questions about the deputy's conduct that is depicted in the video. This is what the sheriff's office said in a statement. This incident occurred over a month before being posted to social media and only days before the arraignment of the individual arrested for delaying/obstructing an investigation and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. All body-worn camera footage has been obtained, and the sheriff's office says it will conduct a thorough investigation to determine if discipline is warranted. So, those are the facts. The neighbor calls the cops because complaint. Cop shows up, rings the doorbell. Minor opens the door, closes the door, and apparently offends the police officer, and he tries to force his way into the house, drags her outside, and performs a warrantless arrest. So the problem here, the issue here is that the officer had no warrant to enter the home, had no warrant to arrest the woman. Why does that violate the Fourth Amendment? You don't have to take my word for it. California is in the Ninth Circuit. The main case in the Ninth Circuit that applies here is called U.S. versus George, and it's from way back in 1989. This George case is actually pretty interesting. So on December 24th, 1986, at approximately 1 in the afternoon, a police officer named Kurtzman participated in the investigation of an armed robbery that had just occurred at the Security Pacific National Bank in Long Island to tell the police that the Orange County Kid had been there, and also Mary Christmas. Now that cop talks to some other cops. Now they think they know who this guy is, and they go and they start surveilling his house. And when they eventually see him, they just sort of barge in, arrest him. I believe they shot him in the process, and they did all of that without bothering to go get him. And here is what the Ninth Circuit said about the law that applies here. Warrantless arrests in the home are presumptively unreasonable, and the prohibited purposes, however, if
Fuck off, guys.
circumstances justify their failure to obtain a warrant. But when this officer intruded into the house and arrested this woman, if there's a lawsuit or if there's a criminal case, the government bears a twofold burden. The burden shifts. Now the government, because they did not have a warrant, must show probable cause to secure the residence, and also, secondly, it must show the existence of exigent circumstances to excuse the lack of a warrant. The first part of it, probable cause, requires a reasonable belief evaluated in light of the officer's experience and practical considerations of everyday life that the suspect committed a is to be found in a place to be searched. Now, secondly, exigent circumstances for the government to demonstrate that those are defined as those circumstances that would cause a reasonable person to believe that entry is necessary to prevent physical harm to the officers or other persons, the destruction of relevant evidence, the escape of the suspect, or some other consequence of properly frustrating legitimate law enforcement efforts. The exigencies must be viewed from the totality of the circumstances known to the officers at the time of the warrantless intrusion. Exigent circumstances necessarily imply that there is insufficient time to get a warrant. So officers don't need to wait for a warrant if they reasonably believe that a suspect is currently endangering the lives of themselves or others, or currently in the process of destroying evidence. If they take the time to go get the warrant, that evidence will be destroyed, or those individuals may be harmed. Or there can be situations where the crime has occurred and police officers have chased the suspect from the scene of the crime to them, which is just another kind of exigent circumstances if there was.
Hey, appreciate it, VP. Yeah, it's starting to become very nice out. With all the rain we've been getting a lot more green back.
From the scene of the crime. In this case, the officer seems to have been relying on that theory that it was sort of a hot pursuit situation, and that he was able to chase the kids, the minors, inside the house when they tried to close the door and the quick crime. It just really doesn't apply at all in many of this officer's also believing that if he had probable cause, that he didn't have time to go get a warrant. There was no indication that anyone was in any immediate danger. There's no indication that evidence was going to imminently be destroyed if he took time to get a warrant. The reason for that is because there was no allegation that any serious crime, if any, because there was no allegation that any serious crime, if any, had been committed. Now, in the George case, there was an armed robbery at a bank. Said anything earlier. It wasn't until it went on social media that people were outraged. And here we have a video of a police officer, and there's no doubt there's no doubt entered the home and arrested the woman with no sort of any type of warrant. That is presumptively unconstitutional. She is clearly asserting.
I appreciate it, VP. Send Lala my regards. Hope everything's going well with you guys.
Constitutional violation, and only under certain very difficult circumstances can the government rebut that presumption and show that it was necessary because it was an emergency type situation involving some serious crime or threat of danger or injury. Here, this was a very serious crime that a police officer blatantly violating constitutional rights, and the woman being charged as a consequence, not for any crime that the officer had arrived there to investigate, but just for asserting her rights. That was the punishment that she received, and the charges are still pending. So here's what you can do. Only when this footage was shared and started to go viral did the sheriff start to make any sort of comment or even look at this case. Now, apparently they're investigating. They already should have dropped this woman's charges. So what you can do is continue to spread this footage far and wide. And if anyone wants an explanation for why this violates the Constitution, you can show them this video. And you can show them the George case, which I will link in the first pinned comment below. I hope to do a update video on this one, explaining that the charges have been dropped, that a civil lawsuit has been filed, that the officer has been terminated, maybe even prosecuted, the whole problem here is that cops just don't believe that search and seizure violations are constitutional violations. They understand that excessive force, if you beat a handcuff detainee, they understand that's wrong. That violates their concept of
I honest to God believe that Pennsylvania has some of the worst roads out of any state I've driven through. On the East Coast, we'll just say the East Coast. Out of all the roads all the different states I've gone to, this state here has consistently the worst roads.
The sacred protections of our home. It's the very foundation of our Bill of Rights, very foundation of our country. Our home is our castle. Our rights don't end where your fear begins. Freedom is scary. Deal with it.
I do. You don't be want to do 100 miles an hour coming down that hill. Way too fast.
This West Virginia state trooper pulled over and arrested this dad right in front of him.
Oh nice, Chuck Bronson's live.
I don't know. Just them hassling them because they're on that property. They just wanted their IDs, you know. I mean, they didn't take them, so you know. That's why I do it for you, you know. And you can't. You can push them anyway. You know? They don't like it, but they can't do nothing about it. That's right. Right. Just like those guys, they all gave up their ID because they don't know, but you don't have to. I don't care if it's ICE or who it is, you don't have to give up your ID unless you're doing something wrong. They were kind of trespassing, but they could be like, they have to ask you to leave. You don't have to give your ID to be asked to leave. Just say, do you want me to leave? I'll leave, and that's it. You don't have to ID over that. And they did because they don't know. You know, but I think my live camera helped because they're not going to want to be taking people live on my camera. All the cops know me. I'm pretty popular.
Yeah.
Chuck Bronson on YouTube. Check it out. Chuck Bronson on YouTube. Yeah. I expose dirty cops. Take it easy. You too, man. be back. Stay tuned.
I need a license. What did I do? Step out the vehicle. You were the one doing 100 miles an hour coming down that hill. Weren't you? You were way too fast.
This West Virginia state trooper pulled over and arrested this dad right in front of his family because they witnessed the trooper illegally speeding. And this guy is such a jerk. This is how he was talking to the wife right in front of the crime scene.
Yes. You have the driver's license? Yes. Do you want me to explain this further, or do you want to argue with me? In that case, I'll just leave and you can figure it out on your own. I'm explaining to you how to get your husband out of jail in the morning. Do you want that explanation or not?
And if that voice sounds familiar, this isn't his first time. That same trooper I did a video on about 2 years ago after he got caught on a secret recording verbally abusing a woman.
Sit down. I told you I would not medical take it. Sit down. Sit down. You know what I got? Sit down, shut your mouth, and you will take a ticket and you will leave this office. Do you understand? You have 2 options. One ticket, or you go with charges to North End Regional Jail. Shut up. Sit down. Shut up. I will not hear any more of your mouth. Shut up.
Supposedly, he was disciplined by the state message out of Shinston, West Virginia. That happened afterwards. The case was only fairly recently resolved. And again, no one has seen this footage yet, but they need to. This family was from that area, but they had since relocated to the Cincinnati, Ohio area. And so they were traveling around Christmas of 2023. And you know when you travel with kids, you have to stop and give them McDonald's. Well, that's what they did. It was late at night, around 10 o'clock at night. Nobody on the roads. This is a 2-lane road, US Route 19. They go through the drive-thru at McDonald's. They go to pull out on the 2-lane road. Traffic is clear. They begin to make a left-hand turn. They do make a left-hand turn, and as they get in their lane, they see a car absolutely flying towards them. The window had been rolled down because they just went through the drive-thru. The father thought it was like a teenager speeding, and he did like a slow down gesture outside his window, like you would do to a teenager that was about to kill somebody. Then, as the car passes, they see this is a West Virginia. Now he does a U-turn, comes up behind them, pulls them over. This is I'll leave it uncut for you, it's not very long. Then I'll tell you what happened afterwards.
It's 5-8, please, Charlie 9925. The white van picking up. I believe something like that. But I can't get on top. We don't want to stop there. Yeah, you can come from any other place. Do you have a registration? I need a license. I need a license and registration from you right now. For what? I need a step out of the vehicle. You're out of your step out of the vehicle. I'm not coming out of the vehicle. Step out of the vehicle. Buddy, you need to step out of the vehicle. I just had a $50,000 search on my home. Step out of the vehicle. Step out. You need step out. If you start talking to me, I'm giving you my license. Step out of the vehicle. Is this on camera? Yes, step out. Good. I'm not gonna step out. No. You want my license? You're gonna unbuckle my license. You're gonna unbuckle and you're gonna step out of the vehicle. Oh, let's do it, man. I want the full 100 miles an hour. Yeah, man. Yeah. Let's do it. How am I gonna step out? You've got it wrapped around my. How am I gonna step
Football
out?
as well. Thanks for stopping by.
I can't bend my arm. Step out.
Oh, it's so nice to be able to see out my windows when I make turns. So glad I took that film off those windows.
Because this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You were 100 miles an hour coming down that hill. Weren't you? Way too fast. You have any registration on the vehicle? Yeah. It's in the center console. Okay, if you're gonna take this vehicle, I'm gonna need to see that before you leave, okay? See, Felix, identify yourself. Oh, my lawyer's gonna love this. Hold on. Have a seat. What? Did you guys all drive along?
We're out of town.
Okay, well, he needs to get in driver's license. I'm gonna ask for it.
I'm so sorry.
You
You're
have,
all taking them down.
yes, you have a driver's license? Yes, you got it. Okay, see, can we go through more things we've been doing tonight? Are you sanitary at all? You know what Frenchburg is? Like, in Greenwood,
Shitty ass
you
Verizon.
go out Route 50, you're from Ohio, right? Good. Explaining to you how to get your husband out of jail in the morning. Do you want that explanation or not? Do you want that explanation or not? What?
I love not having phone service like literally all the time. Fucking fun lifestyle to not be able to fucking have.
out. Okay, you can Google April 24th out in Pittsburgh, and we'll take you to it. Be there in the morning. Let's start, okay? Hey, question, yeah. That's where you have to take the ball and take off to the jail. I don't know. I have no idea. You have to be out in the morning, okay? Don't be able to tell you you're there. No problem. We're doing that. Dad.
Major surgery.
Okay.
You gonna be okay?
That's not the best of the day. Well, he can give me his license next time and then we'll have to do it. Okay. I'm fine.
So basically what happened here is there was no lawful stop in the first place because no traffic violation was actually committed. The only thing that happened was Trupo was butthurt that they waved at him to tell him to slow down. At the time they turned left out of McDonald's, Trupo still wasn't anywhere near them. He was coming from the town of Shinston, and he was traveling at such a high rate of speed that after they had made the left-hand turn, the dad was just shocked that this car was coming at them so quickly, and he just motioned to slow down. He had no idea it was a police car. So what Trupo did was basically fabricate an illegal justification to then retaliate by performing a bogus traffic stop. And this is what he wrote in the subsequent police report. I was traveling along US Route 19, otherwise known as Shinston Pike. The undersigned officer observed a white and color Ram pickup. Herein the suspect vehicle exit the McDonald's located at the physical address of 1497 South Pike Street, Shinston, at a slow rate of speed, failing to yield to the undersigned officer, causing him to slow abruptly. The undersigned officer conducted a traffic stop on the suspect vehicle. The undersigned officer made contact with the driver and directed him to produce his operator's license and vehicle registration. The male refused. The undersigned officer directed the driver out of the vehicle. The male refused. The undersigned officer unbuckled the driver's seatbelt and again directed the driver out of the vehicle. The male became verbally aggressive and exited the vehicle under escort from the undersigned officer. So that was his story. And if you watch the footage, you know that not only was it a bogus stop to begin with, but his explanation is basically a complete, if not a total fabrication, a complete exaggeration. This was a bogus retaliatory stop. As you saw in the footage, the cop had the ID in his hand before he drug him out of the car. Retaliation, not performing any routine traffic stop. The driver, of course, was upset because he knew that he was being harassed and being subjected to a bogus stop. So ultimately, he was taken to jail and he spent 17 hours in jail. And he actually had a pretty awful time there because he had just had surgery. And that did cause some issues while he was in jail. It definitely ruined the family trip. And this was Christmas time. He was charged with failure to yield, obstructing an officer, and also, I've never heard this before, interference with a trooper. Thankfully, there was body cam footage. Once it was handed over to the criminal defense lawyer, it was shown to the prosecutor. Apparently, the prosecutor was not at all happy with what he saw, and the charges were dismissed. The charges were dismissed on the motion of the prosecutor. It said that he reviewed the facts of the case, there was lack of any criminal history, and it was in the interest of justice to dismiss the charge. Imagine being this cop and doing what he just did, and the prosecutor dismisses all the charges and says that it's in the interest of justice that everything you did be thrown out. Perhaps it has something to do with the fact that this trooper has no credibility because he has already publicly humiliated the West Virginia State and the Lapper Trupo in August to discuss a citation against her business for selling tobacco products to a minor. Bruce recorded the conversation in which business for selling tobacco products to a minor. Bruce recorded the conversation in which Trupo was heard using profanity several times, and then it was shared with the news. This is the actual recording, which again sounds very familiar, does it not?
I'm off. I'm looking for. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Sometimes you won't have a copy of your business license, do you?
No.
That's fine.
By chance, can we talk first?
Yeah, we
Okay. Like, you're
sit down. I told you I would not mail you a ticket. Sit down. Sit down.
This guy clearly is a pothead, but even worse than that, he threatens and in fact does abuse his authority. The sacred authority that the people give him as a public servant to punish people that
Hey,
make
good
him
morning,
angry,
Lisa.
which is not very difficult to do with him. And he's threatening as a punishment, where he's judge, jury, and executioner, threatening as a punishment, stays in the local regional jail. But here, this guy, how dare he motion for a car to slow down and that is speeding? He doesn't know at the time that that was a West Virginia state trooper actually violating the law. And his trip gets detoured in the worst possible way, with his daughter crying as she sees her father getting taken to jail. When he hadn't even committed a traffic violation or any legitimate reason to be pulled over by this out-of-control state trooper. The last update article on him being disciplined ended like this. It said, the allegations against Trooper Trupo were sustained. West Virginia State Police Major J.T. Finley told 5 News. Finley said he could not elaborate on the specifics of what disciplinary action was taken, but did say Trupo is still employed by the West Virginia State Police. You don't say. I take it there was not much in the way of disciplinary action. The disciplinary action that should have been taken was to fire him. Why would you leave somebody in that position of trust, that position of authority, who is a hothead, who is not credible, who verbally abuses women in the way that he did? The West Virginia State Police needs to fire him right now, immediately. This guy is a threat to public safety. Now, there have been a lot of scandals at the West Virginia State Police. Let's see if things have changed there. They may not have known about this. Well, now they know. And if you're a West Virginian, contact your politician, contact your government, and let them know, show them the footage of what this guy has done. Why is he still out on the road with a gun and a badge and the authority to not only do what he's done here, but to
Hey,
take
appreciate
people's
it,
lives?
Merc.
He cannot be trusted.
Thanks for being
I
here.
look forward to an update on this one. We'll see if the West Virginia State Police does the right thing. So as always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe both here and at the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. Remember, our rights don't end with your fear begins. Freedom is scary. Deal with it. in Mississippi, and this is similar to the one I posted 2 weeks ago in Texas, where the narcotics officer had apparently gotten some sort of training on target indicators, and he could figure out who was some big drug smuggler. But in reality, he's just harassing law-abiding citizens. I think that's what we'll see here. But take a look at the footage, and then we'll talk about it.
You can't get in trouble for telling that.
Remember? I mean, I had DUI 20 years ago. Probably about it.
Okay, all right. When's the last time you were arrested? Do you remember that?
Now it's been probably 20 years.
20 years?
Probably about
Anything
1999.
Anything narcotics related at all?
No.
Do you wear glasses or contacts?
Contacts.
Are those colored contacts, or are your eyes always that kind of grayish glass?
Yeah, green eyes or whatever.
Green eyes? Okay.
Because I was kind of upset. You're asking me where I'm going and where I live, and I don't think that I'm allowed. I don't have to answer that.
You absolutely don't. It's just casual conversation. So, do you have anything illegal in the car today?
Nothing to do.
Okay, so there's nothing. There's not if I look.
No, you may not look. Unless you have a search warrant.
I don't, but I'm simply asking. Your
I
pupils
mean,
are
I can
not.
open up the trunk, I can open the doors up, but I don't want you to go in and look through my car
Okay.
because I don't feel like I have to.
And you absolutely don't. I'm simply see in my line of work. What I do is I love doing this. Okay? I love working with narcotics, and you're giving off a lot of precursors that could potentially lead up to narcotics. I'm not saying that you do, and I'm not saying that you don't. If you don't have anything,
No, I don't have any narcotics. I don't have
Everybody
any.
said that
You're
you do.
foaming at the mouth. You're asking me why I'm nervous. I mean, what's the next step? Are
just
we going to get a
simply-
ticket for speeding or what?
that's to be determined. I haven't done that.
How do I get? I have narcotics.
I didn't say you didn't have narcotics. I said you were just like indicators.
What are you saying? I have pupils. I'm nervous. I mean, I was upset because you're asking me where I'm going.
That was just casual conversation. So here's the deal. Look, I'm not going to sit here and argue. I'm not going to argue. Okay, I'm simply asking you
What
a
would you like me to do?
question.
Do you want me to open the trunk? Do you want me to?
I just asked you if I can follow up. You don't have to.
I don't
Tell
know
me
if
no, I don't know.
They're saying I have suspicion of narcotics or something. I mean, you're welcome to look. There's absolutely nothing in possible.
So, would you mind if I look at it?
I give you the permission to view what's in my car. But
Okay,
under no
here's the
circumstances
thing.
are you allowed to just search my car without a search warrant. I mean,
There's a few different ways that I can. Probable cause, okay? Which I'm just asking you for
What's
a
the
little bit of
probable cause? Can you please explain to him what the
I
probable
didn't
cause
say
was?
there was. I just asked you.
You said I had
You're just getting defensive with me for asking common questions. All right, I'm just doing my job. I'm doing what's called a patrol investigation. Okay. Is this your wife, girlfriend,
This is
friend?
my fiance, my girlfriend. For 5 years.
Okay, well, congratulations. I'm just asking you some questions. Ma'am, would you be willing to step out and speak with me out here, please? Possibly less aggressive as he is. That would be lovely. Okay? So my name's Sergeant William L. Carissa Bridgeport. The reason y'all remember me? I'm sorry, I don't remember you. Have we ever had a negative interaction before? Okay, so when you called, did I show up and help you as best that you thought I probably could? Okay, all right. Do you have any indication of me ever being rude, ugly, or too assertive, aggressive? Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad you feel that way, so thank you. I appreciate that. I'm asking simple questions. Hey, how you doing? How you momming in? Where you coming from? Where you headed to? I'm not doing this to pry into your life, to have any sort of privatized information of what you do. I don't care what y'all are doing, okay? But I have a goal in mind, okay? How long have you known him? Has he been arrested in the 6 years since y'all been together? No, never in trouble or anything like that. He lives in Madison. Has he lived with you the whole time? Has he ever been known to abuse prescription medications, smoke marijuana, any heroin, meth, anything like that? Okay. And so that's all I'm looking for. It's a casual conversation. All right. There are indicators leading me up to this question. So that's irrelevant. Different people and
that might be why he is
Well, so I want to remind you of this. All right, the window tint is darker than the legal limit. It's 28%. The legal limit is 28%. That's along the lines of 5%. Okay. There's no way possible that from where I was, I knew he was with a black woman. I didn't even know he was a white guy. So that's irrelevant to me.
They don't have the right to search my car.
You got defensive with me for doing my job. Okay. I can stop. Don't interrupt me again, please. I don't have any smells. The only thing I have are behavioral indicators at this point. And his fiance, I actually remember her. Well, I don't really, but she says that we have been in contact with each other, Dollar General. So she's alright with me. She's okay with me. She likes me, but he does not. Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, I know timeline-wise, constitutionality, how long are we going to be in? What's a reasonable amount of time? Which I think we don't have a dog available. No, I saw it. I got a guy stopped. He's I don't know. I got a warm and fuzzy on it, brother, but he shut down on me and I got defensive. But I don't have any like physical indicators, but then his behavioral indicators are just skyrocketing. And I think there's something here. He's just shutting me down. I don't have enough. I don't think I have enough right now to go any further with him than I can. So I was looking for a dog. He says I'm a dickhead or I'm an asshole or whatever.
No Amish people around here, Merc. Not that I know of.
Because I started asking him common, like, investigative questions, like, hey, where you come from? Where you headed to? And he's like, I don't have to tell you that shit. I'm like, well, I'm just asking you some questions, bro. Issued me 2 citations today, one for speeding 10 over, one for window tint. Gave you court date March 29th. And on that day, you're up to pay for citations. They would gladly rearrange or make a payment plan if you'd rather do that. If you no call, no show, a warrant will be issued for your arrest and we're just going to pick you up, okay?
Oh boy. So where do I begin with this one? I mean, these scenarios just drive me up the wall. So the officer sort of understands what the law is here. He's a know-it-all type. He thinks he knows everything, but he doesn't know a damn thing. Yeah, he can hold somebody at a traffic stop for a reasonable amount of time. So he pulled the guy over for speeding. He has a reasonable amount of time to go through the process of getting his documentation and running his license plate and writing him a ticket for speeding. And instead of doing that, he's like that guy in Texas who thinks he's smarter than he really is, and he thinks that this could be some big drug guy, some big drug smuggler, and he is going to solve the case because he's just so smart. He pulls him over for speeding, and 30 minutes is going by, and he hasn't done a damn thing related to the tasks of giving somebody a speeding ticket, a routine traffic stop. He is treating this like a drug. could have narcotics in his blood, that he could be intoxicated. He has none of that. He's just trying to develop it out of thin air. Meanwhile, he's not doing any of the tasks normally associated with a traffic stop for speeding, and that's exactly what the U.S. Supreme Court has said that he's allowed to do, and he's given a reasonable amount of time to do those things. Usually, can somebody be ordered out of the car during a traffic stop? Yes, if there's some articulable officer safety reason for doing so. Unlike what a lot of police officers think, it's not just an automatic thing. If there's some reason related to officer safety to ask him out of the car, then he can't. Same thing with the passenger. But he can't just order them out of the car and go on a fishing expedition to see if maybe his hunch could be correct, that this guy could be some sort of a drug smuggler. And you know what? If you look at the part where he pulls the guy's fiance out and he starts questioning her, I think she's exactly right. She says that they had been pulled over in a neighboring jurisdiction, they believe, because he's a white man with a black woman. And I think that although this officer couldn't see that when he pulled them over, when he gets up to the window, he can see who's in the passenger side. And I think that is his hunch. I really do. I think that's what it is. He doesn't see somebody's 5-year or 6-year fiance. He sees some sort of drug activity or something else going on here. That is his hunch that he will not admit, and that's why he pulls her out of the car separately and he starts to question her. Of course, police officers that engage in that sort of racial profiling and discrimination, they know, they're at least smart enough not to admit that. The questions being asked. Generally, if you're pulling somebody over for a traffic stop, you can ask some limited questions about where you're going, where you're coming from, things of that nature. But unless there's some indication that narcotics could be involved, that does not mean that they get to then interrogate the individual about whether they're a drug dealer. So just like the video from 2 weeks ago, the game that they're playing is just perform a regular traffic stop under the pretext that they're actually going to conduct a drug investigation. And then they stall for this drug dog scam to show up and pretend like the dog knows that there's drugs in the car. But they can't do that here because there's no drug dog available. Because he does not have probable cause to search this guy's car, he keeps asking him for consent to search his car. What do you need for consent? You need voluntary consent. And here, this guy does not give voluntary consent. And the officer keeps saying, yeah, but you have the right to say no. But then he also is attempting to coerce the guy into believing that he has no choice but to say yes. And at one point he even says, well, I don't know if I'm going to give you a speeding ticket yet. I haven't determined yet. It depends on your behavior. If you let me search your car, you let me do all these things I say you have a right to say no to, then I may not give you a traffic stop. So it's coercion. This guy even offers to show him inside the front of his car, inside the car, but no, he wants to be able to perform a search with no boundaries, and he had no right to do that, and he had no consent to do that. So at the end of the day, this guy did assert his rights, he acted properly, and he was very reasonable in getting angry with this police officer. As always, thanks for watching. If you like going over these sorts of videos and discussing constitutional rights, arguing about the facts, whatever, please subscribe, both here and at the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. Remember, freedom is scary. Deal with it. About the company of SEAL Team 6 guys who fired their employee over an allegedly missing AR-15.
Slow traffic. Releasing that. Route.
What?
We'll explain everything.
Route.
What?
We'll explain everything.
Oh, y'all really serious.
We'll walk back in there, say hi to the boy real quick.
Yeah. So 10 minutes after you guys left, this showed up.
Can we open it and fill in some more?
I have some updates for you about that, and I was actually going to leave it alone, but they hired this Beverly Hills, California lawyer who is demanding that I remove the footage off of my YouTube channel, and I'm not one of people. Before we get into the updates and the report, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video. My sponsor today is again Incogni. Check out Incogni using the link below or go to incogni.com/civil to get an exclusive 60% off an annual Incogni plan just for my viewers. Why use an annual Incogni plan just for my viewers? Why use Incogni? Because as a content creator and lawyer, I know that privacy is important, but many people are oblivious to the fact that their private data is collected and traded online by shady data brokers who create shadow profiles on you that include a frightening amount of personal details. This is then used against you without your consent by insurance companies, banks, businesses, and even the government. Incogni not only tracks down these data brokers that have your information, but they also then have that information completely removed. It's actually very easy. You just create an account and you don't have to do anything else. It just sort of works in the background. As of today, Incogni has looked at my private information with 232 different data brokers, and they've had that deleted with 191 of those data brokers. 41 others are still in progress. This would be a very time-consuming process, even with my experience, 143 hours and 15 minutes of time to be exact. But I haven't had to do anything. You just set it and forget it. Incogni does it all for you. So check out Incogni using the link below or go to incogni.com/civil to get an exclusive 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Now let's get back to the video. Now to be clear, prior to making the first video, I had no sort of proprietary information or private information from either side involved in this dispute. Some of my subscribers had submitted the Instagram posts that James, this employee, had made that contained body cam footage. I was able to gather information about his side of the story from his social media posts as well as from his GoFundMe. I did try to reach out both to him and also to GBRS, the employer here, prior to publishing the video to see if I could find out additional information. I didn't hear back from either side before publishing the video. My interest in this footage was in what the police did, not in an employer terminating an employee, but it was the reaction and the body cam footage of the police officers involved. I think we see a sort of special treatment, double standard, sort of a fanboy type thing going on here to the detriment of James, the employee. Information began to pour in after this video started to go viral. There were a lot of insiders, other SEALs, people very close, individuals involved here that started giving me all sorts of information, really whether I wanted it or not, or whether it was really relevant to my interest. Some of that was interesting though because it explained who this guy was. And I was actually sent a Medium article about this guy. And this is from the Stars and Stripes. The title of the article is 2 Navy SEAL leaders fired over sexual misconduct allegations from July 10th, 2018. The article states that 2 Navy SEAL leaders were relieved of their duties Monday following investigations into sexual misconduct accusations while they were deployed in Africa, Navy officials said Tuesday. Commander Jared Donaldson and Master Chief Petty Officer John Franklin were fired from their positions as a unit commander and a senior enlisted advisor by Captain Jamie Sands, the commander of the Naval Special Warfare Group 2, said Navy Lieutenant Jackie Maxwell, a spokeswoman for the Virginia Beach-based SEAL unit. She said that both men had been reassigned to other duties within Naval Special Warfare Group 2. So the guy who appears to have instigated all of this stuff is another employee of GBRS, a former SEAL, not just SEAL, but SEAL officer, Commander Jared Donaldson, also working as an employee at GBRS.
No, it's still outstanding, but the shipment still hasn't been scanned in. shifted somewhere else. We really have no idea.
So it's just a BCM lower.
Just a BCM lower.
So this guy is complaining to the cops today. He's also on body cam saying, well, here is the actual BCM lower. Here it's in my desk drawer. It showed up just 10 minutes later.
So we got the box. Where's it at?
Okay, can you give us a break? Can you punch out here for a second? Yeah. Shut the door. Yeah. So 10 minutes after you guys left, this showed up.
Can we open and confirm what's in there? I know, but like.
Nope. Just one more and then we opened it.
That's what we did.
We did. It's in there.
I'm really happy that this happened.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know what y'all's policy on like THC is here and stuff. We have a week and on. I was initially charging with that, but they didn't grant it for like wonderful. Chris, you're okay.
So there's the actual missing BCM lower right there. And for context, when the officer just walked in to view that lower, he had just left the presence of James, whom he had just finished releasing from custody.
See about the freaking bill there. Thank you for being cool with me, cooperative with me, but then like that. Yeah. That's, yeah. But like I said, if that happened, you were already in custody, then like, you would have just been arrested. I'm gonna go on there, talk to them.
So James did not
You said black.
When you mentioned the VS,
Junior, I said I can give you the address.
what's the address? Is he a white man, black man, Spanish male?
White man.
What's his name?
Yes, sir. He's here with his wife. He's here as well. So I don't expect anything but
What color hair is he have?
black.
And what color shirt and pants does he wear?
He's wearing a black shirt, black shorts.
Alright. And he said with his wife and kid?
Yes, sir. We have two owners. So we know a bunch of dudes that are in the police department. So he was reaching out to someone, and so he was stepped out of the office. He's like, call the cops. So I called 911. Just because this guy is not anticipated to be coming to work anytime soon. And the fact that he just walked in and this relationship just kind of went sour yesterday.
Alright, so, I mean, is he going to be violent or anything, or?
No. Not yet. Nothing as of yet.
So, what would you like us to do to help you out?
We just need somebody to just come and, I guess, facilitate. If at all possible.
As far as what? Just to facilitate what?
Yes, this individual is trying to come pick up their stuff. He's trying to stop it.
Why? Does he not be there to get his stuff, or what?
No, he's not.
Does he know that?
Yes, he is my told.
Okay.
He is totally. One is right there sitting there. We just finished training DB SWAT, They just finished, the guys as well just finished training DB SWAT. They're doing some non-training with them, and he just reached out to that lieutenant as well, so I think he's in out as well.
Okay. Alright, I'll go to update the case, go from there, okay?
Alright, thanks.
That was the phone call between DJ Shipley and Malibu Dispatch. There was no action there by me. I did cut out dead space just for the sake of convenience. I was told that this was an example of DJ Shipley, the co-owner of GBRS, calling his cop buddies in Virginia Beach to intimidate somebody. In this case, the former business partner, or whatever it was, Slade, who's there with like his wife and young son, and the cops are called to come confront them. Now, I don't know the underlying facts, and that's not really what I'm interested in. But this is yet another example of somebody with a cozy relationship with the local cops, bringing them in to a internal dispute or a civil dispute that the cops should not be involved in. Anyways, after I posted my first video on this, then I get contacted by the lawyer, this guy out of Beverly Hills, California for some reason. And he talks to me. I say, look, I'm happy to do a follow-up video if you want to provide me more information, if you want an interview, whatever, I'm down for it. But all that ended up happening was they issued this statement. And this is the statement that they issued.
What are we doing?
That said, GBRS Group terminated an employee last December. This past week, 2 months later, their unemployment claim was contested as they were not laid off. This prompted an internet campaign by the former employee that falsely labeled the basis for the termination was racially motivated, or that there were false accusations made to the police by white employees. We are one unit that works together. In fact, the employee's supervisor is a person of color as well as the employee's replacement. It is unfortunate that GBRS Group even has to issue a statement like this, as the basis for the termination had nothing to do with anything other than clear breaches of company policy dealing with the shipping of firearms. Here are the facts the company believes to be accurate based upon the information it has uncovered. 1, the employee delivered a customer's purchase to a Federal Express store with a UPS label based upon video surveillance. Again, I haven't seen where that's been provided or uploaded anywhere. 2, the employee initially denied delivering it at all. 3, the UPS driver arrived to pick up packages the same day. The employee drove what looked like a UPS labeled package to a FedEx store. When it was determined that a firearm was missing, federal law requires the filing of a police report. One was made. The employee had no explanation as to why he removed the firearm from the office. for drop-off instead of having the UPS driver pick up the package from the company's warehouse. In fact, the UPS driver showed up within a short while after the employee left in return from dropping off the alleged package at FedEx. He also had no explanation as to why he tendered a UPS labeled package at FedEx instead of UPS. He finally had no explanation as how the driver for UPS suddenly had back in his possession the missing firearm that was tendered at FedEx weeks earlier, and how or why he was contacted to retrieve it and return it the same day the employee was detained by the investigating officers. When the package was delivered back to the company immediately contacted the police department, who decided to cancel the detention pending further investigation. The company is still investigating the negligent release of its firearm. The company also reached out to the former employee to attempt to resolve this matter and obtain further information. The former employee has not returned any calls nor responded to inquiries by the company. Unfortunately, in the footage that I've seen, I don't see anywhere where we hear the employee's explanation or lack of explanation about any of this. All we see is the cops walking in and sort of surprising the guy and just arresting him first, and then taking him down to the police station in handcuffs and interrogating him while detained. So they arrested him first, asked questions later. And that was the whole point of my video. They would not have done that but for this relationship and trying to impress the SEAL Team 6 guys. Initially, after the video came out, I spoke with their lawyer on the phone. Then months went by, and then I get out of the blue an email from him June 25th of this year. And he says, "Hi, John, we spoke back in February. We've been in arbitration with Mr. Humphrey," that's James. "He's made it clear that he does not believe nor have any evidence that the company did anything based upon any racial motivation. Also, much more evidence has come out which shows he intentionally took a UPS package to FedEx and just left it there without a receipt. He never brought a counterclaim and the case is close to resolving. Meanwhile, your video is causing our client to lose a lot of revenue because it provides a distorted narrative of what happened and leaves James blamed. Can you please consider removing the video now? We never did a counter video which you offered, but my client would be willing to provide some lost revenue to you if that is even an issue to avoid the threats, hate mail, and lost business. I'm attaching the link below. Please help me work something out here so that my client can live in peace and this matter will be resolved by the arbitration that is pending. Thank you." So I sent him an email back and I said, "I understand that your client is less than thrilled that this video is out there. As you know, however, I offered to make a follow-up video with your client's both side of the story, along with additional information and evidence you can provide. I requested a copy of the police report from both sides of the dispute, and neither provided it. And not being a Virginia resident, I was unable to get it through the Virginia FOIA statute. I filled it.
How does stepping on the gas pedal affect my car?
However, I'm not willing
Why
to
the fuck are
delete
those
what
two
is
things
currently the second most all-time popular video on my channel.
Makes
As you
no
know, your
sense.
client's former employee is not my client, nor did I make the video on his behalf. I simply became aware of what he publicly posted on his social media, which I in turn posted about utilizing public domain body cam footage. I didn't receive or rely on any information received from the employee in making my video. I don't believe I communicated with him at all until he reached out to me after the dog and the underlying employment fight. I don't take issue with an employer firing an employee in general for any reason. What I took issue here, as I explained in the video, were the actions of the I sympathize with your client and appreciate their service. I don't feel that I can delete a video documenting what I believe is police misconduct, documenting constitutional violations, even if I were offered money to do so. Moreover, even if I did so, it would undoubtedly be noticed, in my opinion, causing someone else to repost the footage, bringing more attention to the situation. If your client is receiving threats and hate mail, I suggest that you take that up with the individuals who are sending those messages, or contact law enforcement. And as far as lost business goes, I didn't create the situation, as you know. I became aware of it through my audience, and I do what I do, which is to break down police body cam footage to my audience and to educate them on government misconduct and civil rights law issues. Even if everything you say is true in regard to the underlying facts, it still doesn't excuse the actions of the law enforcement officers documented in the video, which is my interest in this situation. Nevertheless, I'm willing to do a follow-up video if your client is interested. In fact, I'll even consider giving you the opportunity to preview and pre-approve a follow-up video prior to it being released if you're concerned about the editing, etc. I understand that if you have some sort of arbitration and mediation, that may not be possible. Perhaps your option is to give an authority to provide a statement clarifying his current position. Again, if that's something you're interested in, please let me know. Or if you just want to provide information that clarifies the facts, I'm happy to take a look at it. No response. Until just 2 days ago, July 26, 2024, out of the blue, another headline. Dear Mr. Brown, the video you're posting now has been removed by the arbitrator in our litigation. Would you consider now removing it as the originating publisher can no longer post about it? Would you consider now removing it as the originating publisher can no longer post it? We would like to avoid any request to your social media account to have it removed. You can, of course, still leave the story up, but the media should be taken down pursuant to the arbitrator's order. Does that work for you? We will pay for any time or readjustment of your site. It is also on your Facebook page as well, sincerely. That really made me angry when I saw that, because what he's threatening to do is to go directly to the social media platforms and issue a copyright infringement takedown. His client, GBRS, has no copyright ownership to my content. Even the body cam, especially the body cam portions, those were not produced in any way by his clients. This is my content. He has no legal right to have it taken down. So here's my response to him. Issue a fraudulent takedown any of my social media platforms, and you and your client will be sued in federal court. If you're not familiar with federal copyright law, I strongly suggest you do some research and furnish your defense. So that's where we are with it. I didn't even plan on doing another video about this incident, but if they are going to threaten to issue fraudulent copyright takedowns on any of my social media platforms, they have another thing coming. I'm not a former SEAL Team 6 guy, but I am somebody who's been standing up to bullies in the courts anyways for a living. And nobody scares me. You know, one of the problems that you encounter when you involve police in your life is you are creating things of public record, such as body cam footage, such as recorded 911 calls. And just because you're very important or you have a record of service in the military, it doesn't mean that, unlike the rest of us, you get to wipe those public records.
I think because of that,
Bro, how long am I gonna not have fucking phone service, Verizon? Like, how long? I want to know before I pay my fucking bill. Jesus Christ. The fuck do I pay for? Nothing. Pay for nothing.
we're just going to say, understand
Fucking ridiculous.
what they want. Where we're just going to make the deal, we don't need the country.
Man, fuck off.
And we'll say this particular country, which has big surpluses, will say that this particular billions of cars. A very small number of cars that are super luxury, and that includes Bentley and Jaguar. So we have some very special cars. So in order to help that industry, and that's really, handmade stuff. They've been doing it for a long time in the same
Alright,
location.
I'm tired of staring at the back of your car.
And
Can
I
you
said,
fucking
that'll
go?
be- let's help them out with that.
There's no
But
reason
that's
to
different
not
than a
go.
car
It's
company
a
that
fucking four-way stop.
comes out and makes
Retard.
millions of cars, which they'll be doing in our country. They can build. We have many,
Tired of
many
looking at the back of your
factories, car plants being built or going to be built. Paid hundreds of billions of dollars. Paid hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs when I was.
Great, no phone service again. Fantastic. Good job, Verizon. Never have phone service. Ever.
China never paid anything. They really did a big number on us from the standpoint of trade. But we are using tariffs now for our benefit, and we have now close to $10 trillion. Look at that, $10 trillion. Look at the past administration. We're talking about essentially 2 months, because it could take 3, but it took a little while to get the office in perfect shape. It took a little while to get things done. But once we started, when you think of it, close to $10 trillion of investment. And we had years when the United States wouldn't do that, and a whole $1 trillion. We wouldn't go anywhere near $1 trillion. We did $10 trillion in 2 months. So it's amazing what's happening. We're getting calls, and that has to do with chips, has to do with cars. We used to make chips. We had Intel, and we used to make chips. We had a monopoly on chips. Everything was made here. Now, over a period of years, because the presidents have been working with India, a lot of that business to be stolen from us. Most of it moved to Taiwan. And we probably were in the same position, because you don't have a lot of chip making capacity, but they looked at it. And if we would have said, that's fine, if you want to move into Taiwan, that's good. But if you want to sell back into the United States, we're going to put a 50% or 100% tariff on, they would have never left. But we had people sitting here that didn't understand that, and it's too bad. But now they're coming back, because I'm saying it about 4 years too late. But they're coming back, because we're the biggest chip makers in the world, and they, in one case, 300 billion, in one case, 500 billion, same as Apple, and in another case, 200 billion. We're going to have a large share, a very, very substantial share of the chip making market. I believe so. I think we would like to say this. We're meeting today. We're meeting. So what are we going to do? Talk about meeting again? I think it's going to be substantive. I think we can say that it's going to be very substantive. China wants to do something, and they have to. Essentially, they made $1 trillion a year, and now they have absolutely no business because of jobs. They have no business, and they want to have business, and we want them to have business. We want them to do well. We want them to do very well. So I think it's going to be very substantive. In China.
But we're seeing as a result that ports here in the U.S., the traffic has really slowed, and now thousands of dock workers and truck drivers are worried about their jobs.
That means we lose less money. I see that. But China was making over $1 trillion, 1.1 trillion a mile. Different numbers, 500 billion, $1 trillion, $1 trillion. I think it was 1.1 trillion. And frankly, if we didn't do business, we would have been better off. You understand? So obviously it's slowed down. That's a good thing that we did. But we're going to make it so they can, I'd like to say they can do better, actually, in terms of the bottom line. But we'd like to see China opened up so we can in China and something that they've never had, access to something that somewhat closed, not like China, but they always treated us with great respect. They treated us with great respect. The